On a warm summer night in 1948, the quiet Texas town of Denton seemed like the safest place a young woman could begin a new chapter of her life. Mary Virginia Carpenter, just 21 years old, was excited to start her studies at Texas State College for Women. She had her whole future ahead of her, dreams, hopes, and a supportive family back home. But as the night of June 1st unfolded, Mary would vanish without a trace. Her suitcase was found. Her trunk was delivered. A few witnesses claimed to see her speaking with strange men. But Mary herself? She was never seen again. This wasn't just the disappearance of a college girl. It was the kind of story that sent shockwaves across the South. A mystery that grew colder and colder with each passing decade. Today, more than 75 years later, her case remains unsolved, lingering like a ghost in Denton's history. This is the story of Mary Virginia Carpenter, and one of the oldest missing person cases in Texas. Born in 1927, Mary grew up in Texarkana, a border city that straddles both Texas and Arkansas. By all accounts, she was a kind-hearted and well-liked young woman. Friends described her as cheerful, outgoing, and ambitious. At 21, she wasn't a rebellious teenager anymore. She was a young adult with plans, ready to step into the wider world. Mary's parents adored her. Like most middle-class families in the late 1940s, they valued education, stability, and the idea of a daughter making something of herself. That's why Mary's decision to attend the Texas State College for Women in Denton made perfect sense. It was a prestigious school at the time, one of the largest women's universities in the nation, and a safe place where families felt confident sending their daughters. But in reality, even small-town America wasn't always safe. The day Mary disappeared started out as exciting and full of promise. She boarded a train from Texarkana bound for Denton. The trip took her across Texas, a journey of nearly 200 miles, with the anticipation of meeting new friends and beginning her college studies. When the train finally arrived in Denton late in the evening, around 9:30 p.m., Mary was reportedly in good spirits. A taxi driver named Edgar Ray Zachary picked her up at the train station. He wasn't just a stranger. Mary had actually met him before on a prior visit to Denton, and according to friends, she had spoken about him casually. This is where the story begins to fracture. Zachary told police that he drove Mary to Brackenridge Hall, the dormitory where she would be living. But when they arrived, the building was locked for the night. Back then, women's colleges enforced strict curfews, and once the doors were shut, there was no getting in. What happened next has haunted investigators ever since. According to Zachary, Mary asked him to drive her to a local drugstore so she could call the house mother of the dorm. Supposedly, she reached her, was told the doors were closed for the night, and then asked Zachary to take her back to the college to spend the night at the dorm of a friend. But here's the catch, no one saw her after that. Witnesses claim that at some point that night, Mary was seen talking to two young men in a car near the dormitory. One man was reportedly described as tall, wearing khaki pants, while the other sat in the driver's seat. Did she know them? Were they strangers? Did she get into the car willingly? Or was she coerced? Zachary insisted he dropped her off safely. But many, including Mary's own family, doubted his story. Here's another strange piece of the puzzle. Mary's suitcase was later found near Brackenridge Hall, left outside as if she intended to come back for it. Her larger trunk, containing her clothes and personal belongings, was delivered to the dormitory the next day. Nothing suggested that Mary had run away. She was ready to settle into campus life. It was as if she had vanished in the span of just a few minutes, between dropping off her luggage and finding a place to sleep. When Mary didn't check in with her parents, alarm bells went off quickly. This wasn't like her. Her family contacted authorities, and a missing person investigation was launched. In 1948, investigative methods weren't what they are today. No cell phones, no security cameras, no DNA testing. Detectives had to rely on witness statements, timelines, and intuition. Police questioned Zachary, the taxi driver, multiple times. His story was suspicious, but not conclusive. He admitted that Mary seemed comfortable with him, but witnesses contradicted parts of his timeline. Some claimed to have seen him with her later than he admitted. Others thought they saw her with different men entirely, and so suspicion widened. Over the years, several theories emerged. The taxi driver theory: many believed Zachary never actually dropped Mary off safely. Could he have been the last person to see her alive? He was questioned repeatedly but never charged. He eventually moved away, and with time, suspicion faded without evidence. The two men in the car, witnesses who claimed Mary was speaking with two men, fueled speculation. Were they local students? Soldiers passing through Denton after the war? Or complete strangers who happened to be in town? The runaway theory: some skeptics suggested Mary might have chosen to disappear, but this was weak at best. Her family strongly rejected it. She had no history of running away, no financial resources, and all her belongings were left behind. Abduction, the most chilling possibility. Mary may have been abducted right outside her dorm. It wouldn't be the first time in history that a young woman vanished under cover of darkness. Despite searches, interviews, and newspaper coverage, no solid evidence ever surfaced. Denton residents were shaken. If a young woman could vanish so easily, was anyone safe? The FBI even became involved at one point, but again, nothing materialized. Mary's name faded from the headlines. Leads went cold. Witness memories grew fuzzy. And eventually, her disappearance slipped into obscurity, remembered only by her grieving family and the Denton community. For Mary's parents, the disappearance was devastating. Imagine sending your daughter off to college, full of hope, only to never see her again. They searched tirelessly, clung to every rumor, and prayed for answers. But the years passed. Birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, each one a painful reminder of a daughter who should have been there but wasn't. Mary's story is important for two reasons. First, it highlights how vulnerable women were and still are when traveling alone. Even in safe places, danger can strike quickly. Second, it shows how easily cases can grow cold without evidence. In the 1940s, without today's forensic tools, investigators were limited. If Mary vanished today, there might be surveillance footage, phone records, or DNA to solve the mystery. Back then, there was only silence. Mary's disappearance remains one of Texas's oldest unsolved missing persons cases. To this day, her body has never been found. Her fate is unknown. Theories swirl online in true crime communities. Could modern DNA testing, if evidence even exists, finally provide answers? Could someone out there still know the truth? Maybe. On June 1st, 1948, a 21-year-old woman arrived in Denton, ready to begin a new chapter of her life. She never made it to her dorm room. She never unpacked her suitcase. She never got to start her studies. Instead, she became a mystery, one that has haunted her family and the town for more than 70 years. Somewhere out there lies the truth about what happened to Mary Virginia Carpenter. If you've made it this far into her story, take a moment to remember Mary, not just as a case file, but as a daughter, a friend, a young woman who deserved her future. Cold cases like Mary's remind us how precious life is, and how quickly it can change. If you believe these stories deserve to be told, help us keep them alive. Subscribe to Unsolved Crime Files for more cases that still demand answers. Like this video to keep Mary's story in the spotlight. And share your theories in the comments. What do you think happened on that June night in 1948? Because somewhere, someone knows the truth. And until it's uncovered, Mary Virginia Carpenter's story will remain one of America's great unsolved mysteries.